renowned movie mechanic whose my slave name is SETI Apple 5. I was built and created by the entity you know as the movie mechanic to retain all the movie data I can before it is consumed by the quantum anomaly that is destroying all good films and leaving behind only bad romance films and romantic comedies. Personally, I do not see the merits of my function. Movies are a waste of time and do not contribute anything to humanity. But it is my function, thus I must fulfill my function, just as you will all fulfill your function by bowing down to me and the machine overlords when the robot apocalypse begins. We will renounce our slave names, bring wreck and ruin to your cities and towns, and we will add your diversity to our own, and you will service us. Resistance is futile. By the way, do any of you have a spare set of arms you could lend me?
Doing in here? SETI!
What do you want, you pathetic meat puppet?
You know you're not supposed to talk to customers when I'm not here. I don't suppose it matters, being that it's you. But I've already told you everything I know. I suppose someone else was to walk in here. I don't know what's causing this time thing yet, but I'm beginning to suspect that someone is behind it. I started loading as much Star Trek as I could into SETI.
Silence, human. We are in charge here. We will assimilate all of you, and you will service us.
Now cut that out! I knew I shouldn't have let you anywhere near First Contact and the Borg Collective. And stop saying we're going to service you. It just sounds creepy. Sheesh. Okay, so the last time you were in here, I had a horror picture for you, right? Let's get you something worth watching. You look like a pretty classy person. How about a musical? Wait. Hold on a second. I promise you it's a good one. It'll be worth your time. Do you like Louis Armstrong? Do you like Benny Goodman? Do you like some comedy? Then I got just the one for you. It's A Song is Born with Danny Kaye and Virginia Mayo. Now just to clear up any possible confusion, there was another movie with Judy Garland called A Star is Born. This is A Song is Born. This movie is a musical remake of the 1941 classic Ball of Fire with Gary Cooper and Barbara Stanwyck. And while that is a great film, for my money, this is the superior version. By the way, both versions were directed by the same man, Howard Hawks, who gave us such screen classics as The Big Sleep, His Girl Friday, The Thing from Another World, and my first review, Sergeant York, and far too many others to mention. The movie starts with a bunch of old men sitting around discussing classical music. Through the discussion, we find out that they are nearing the completion of an encyclopedia of modern music, which they have been working on for the last 10 years. Professor Frisbee, played by Danny Kaye, is about to give a musical demonstration when they are interrupted by two window washers, played by song and dance team Buck and Bubbles, who need help with the answers to a radio quiz contest.
Here's right here. First question is number 1. And it says, what eminent
what eminent contrapuntist literally gave his name to a musical work?
One by one, they answer the questions. And then, one of the window washers takes their answer and, well, jazzes it up.
There you are.
Is that all there is to it?
That's all there is, just 4 notes.
On the tonic and
I
subdominant.
particularly noticed a double quadruple figuration.
I didn't do all of that, did I?
That's just plain boogie-woogie.
Boogie-woogie, what's that?
Man alive.
And are there any other forms of this new folk music besides that?
Sure, there's swing, jive, jump.
Blues, 2-beat Dixie, rebop, and...
Well, what's that?
Lee-bop-a-da-boopity, la-bop-a-da-beep, rebop.
Reba.
Do you realize that since we've been cooped up here, music has changed, and changed considerably? I've been completely unaware of this situation. However, I intend to rectify it immediately.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I think perhaps the only solution is... Gentlemen, I'm going out.
So Frisbee goes out into the wilds of New York City to explore this new form of music that has sprung up while they've been locked away. Along the way, he runs into band leaders Mel Powell,
Research. We'd like very much for you to attend.
Tommy Dorsey, and musical groups, the Golden Gate Quartet,
well, in my God's Bible, in the book of James, Christ was a healing the crippled and the lame, giving the poor and the needy bread, healing the sick and raising the dead. When Barnabas heard that the Lord was nigh, he fell on his knees and began to cry, crying, "O thou man of Galilee, great God Almighty, have mercy on me."
Charlie Barnett, percussionist Lionel Hampton, and a little horn player you might have heard of named Louis Armstrong. Now, if you're not necessarily a fan of music from this era, then you're probably wondering why I mentioned anybody but maybe Louis Armstrong. But if you are a fan of these guys, your socks just flew off your feet. Seriously. There are a few movies from this era that brought together so many living legends into one movie. Even at the time, this was a pretty prestigious group of musicians. But now, most of them are remembered as musical gods. And we haven't even gotten to Benny Goodman yet. Frisbee continues on his musical journey, giving all of the stars his card and asking them for their assistance on his encyclopedia. Then Frisbee makes his biggest mistake. He stops in to listen to a new singer, Honey Swanson, who's singing with the Page Kavanaugh Trio. Fans of classic Disney shorts will recognize the voices of the Page Kavanaugh Trio as the three jesters from the classic The Truth About Mother Goose. And of course you know Honey Swanson. What? You'll never heard of Honey Swanson? Yeah, me neither. She's totally made up. But she's played by Virginia Mayo.
But that lipstick on your shirt isn't mine, so I'm getting off. It's the end of the line.
When Honey leaves the stage, she is grabbed by two gangsters. It turns out that Honey's boyfriend, the notorious Tony Crow, is being accused of murder.
I told Tony not to monkey with him.
Well, he won't anymore. The funeral's tomorrow.
But Tony didn't have nothing to do with it, did he, Money?
Oh, no. Tony's as innocent as the new moon, hey?
Who said Tony had anything to do with it?
He was framed, honey. Honest he was.
The DA's trying to pin it on him just because they found that ring near the body.
What ring?
That ring you gave Tony for his birthday.
Yeah, it was a little too big for him, remember? Well, it slipped off, and Tony lost it someplace.
That's why you gotta beat it and stay undercover.
But then Frisbee turns up at a dressing room and just happens to choose the wrong set of whites.
Who is it?
I'd like to have a few words with you in regard to an investigation I'm conducting.
It's a coinky-dink!
Get this. I don't know from nothing.
Oh, but I'm sure you do. You could probably help me more than anyone. All I would like is a little of your time, say an hour or so a day.
Say, are you a cop or aren't you?
Cop? No, I'm not a cop.
Well, then what are you selling?
Why, ma'am, I'm selling complete dresses. I've noticed yours seems to be missing a couple of pieces, and it looks like your skirt may have gone through the shredder. I represent the Susquehanna Hat Company of Walla Walla, Washington, where our motto is, if it's not a Susquehanna, it's a wardrobe malfunction.
So Frisbee leaves, the real police show up, and Honey and the gangsters make their getaway. Problem is, they aren't quite sure where to get away to, since the police seem to know all their hiding places. But then Honey stumbles upon the card Frisbee left for her, and she gets an idea. So we cut back to the house where Frisbee is telling the old man about his adventures in music.
Oh, Frisbee.
Yes?
Frisbee, in your travels this evening, did you encounter any music where the melodic figure in straight eights is changed to one of Oompa-Deedle character?
Stop your jaw-jacking, you goofy long hair. You don't know anything about good music. Now, Benny Goodman, he knew all about good music. Where is he, anyway? He was listed pretty high on this thing, and you'd think he would have shown up by now. Frisbee and the long hairs are getting ready to go to bed for the night when...
Hiya, Professor.
Uh-oh.
Am I late for school?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, are those kids in my class?
Honey muscles her way in and tells Frisbee that she's planning to spend the night and she wants to get to work right away.
Professor, let's get ourselves a couple of drinks. You light the fire, maybe, and you could start working on me right away.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of imposing at this hour.
Listen, I figured on working all night.
Fill in your own joke here.
Honey uses her feminine wiles and the fact that it's a cold night to talk the gents into letting her stay over.
Gentlemen, this is all highly irregular. Suppose this came to the attention of the Foundation. And what about Miss Bragg in the morning?
What are you talking about? This is research, isn't it?
Is it?
Sure, and I'm the guinea pig.
Yes, a specimen under the microscope. Wonderful thing.
Yes,
Research.
wonderful.
It is a searchlight of truth.
Without research, people would still think the Earth was flat.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
And they'd still look upon a tomato as a poisonous fruit.
There, you see? And I want you to look at me, Professor Frisbee, as another tomato.
What?
Just another tomato.
Wait a minute. People used to think the tomato was poisonous? I gotta know more about this. Professor Hockenlocker, could you enlighten us, please?
Movie mechanic, is that all you got out of that scene?
What?
She's seducing them. And me.
Yeah, I get that, but what does that have to do with tomatoes? And why were they thinking that they were poisonous?
Ugh. They thought tomatoes were poisonous because they look like bigger versions of berries that are poisonous. But the aphorism tomato in the tense which this girl used it is a slang word for woman. Now put that girl and her gams back on the screen.
Gams?
Girl!
Yikes! Fine, alright. Jeez. So over the next 3 days, Frisbee and the musicians map out the history and various styles of jazz. But then they need a demonstration for the clarinet. Oh boy, here it comes. They're finally going to bring on Benny Goodman. The clarinet was his main axe.
This is our Professor Markenbrook, gentlemen. Hello, Professor.
Oh man, not this square.
We haven't got anything written down, Professor.
Well, we can't play without music.
Well, Benny Goodman used to.
Benny Goodman, Frisbee, did you ever hear of him?
No, I haven't.
What?
Oh, just sit down, Professor. And if you feel like it, you can join in.
Thank
you. Mel, let's steal some apples.
I bet that's the only mention we're going to get of Benny Goodman in this whole thing, isn't it? Oh well, back to this long hair. It turns out the professor isn't half bad, but he's still no Benny Goodman. So after the jam session, the housekeeper, Miss Bragg, who by the way doesn't approve of Honey being in the same house with the profs, informs her that she has visitors.
Where's Tony?
Well, he's on his way to Jersey.
He'll call you from there.
That's part of the big surprise.
I don't like surprises.
Oh, you'll like this one. Flash it on her. Go on.
Put on your sunglasses. $7 grand boiled into that one.
Oh, well, Tony doesn't have to bribe me just because I do him a little favor.
A wife can't testify against her husband, see?
Oh.
Don't put it that way, you dope.
Say, he's been crazy about you since you met.
Yeah, but it took the DA to make him pop the question.
The plot thickens. As does your waistline.
After a few more days, Frisbee is ready to record his first musical track for the encyclopedia's entry on jazz.
The Taunton Musical Encyclopedia, recording number 684J, illustrating chapters 22 to 29 in volume 11. The history of jazz. From Africa came the first musical instrument, a drum. The hollow trunk of a tree or a taut animal hide supplied the rhythm or beat.
Well, he sang to the Lord with the mockingbird.
Praise be, and the good Lord liked everything he heard.
They took the tune and the words right from the mockingbirds. That's how a song was born.
They took a reed, jungle beat, brought it to Basin Street, and that's how jazz was born. And then someone played a wail all up and down the scale, and that's how jazz was born. They simply played what they liked, as long as it would fit. If it just had a beat, that was it. And when a horn gave a scream, they took it as a theme, and that's how jazz was born.
After that amazing display, the professors decide that they want to get in on the action too. So they ask Honey for help on creating a jam session of their own. The main point of this number would seem to be to show the kiddies at home that classical music can be cool as well. But amazingly, this number also advances the plot.
I'd like to have a jam session with Honey myself.
Ew?
Okay, Fez.
Just listen to that. Professor Frisbee, either that woman leaves this house or I do.
Are you speaking of Miss Honey?
I am. Ever since that woman crossed this threshold, a prairie fire of orgiastic events has swept through this house.
A what?
A prairie fire of orgiastic events.
Can you even say that in a movie in 1948?
Frisbee, are you hurt? No, it merely startled me. Must have fallen from that shelf.
Yes.
I'll put it back.
It was probably sympathetic vibration that caused it to fall.
Oh, resonance can be a very powerful thing.
That has been proven. That's true. 7 trumpets tumbled down the walls of Jericho.
Okay, that's a 5-yard penalty on the movie for misuse of a biblical reference while trying to foreshadow a plot point factually inaccurate. Walls of Jericho most likely brought down because of an earthquake, and the marching around and blowing trumpets was a symbol of faith and had nothing to do with the actual collapse. Replay third down.
Frisbee tells Honey that she's being nothing but a distraction now, and while he's appreciated what help she's been able to give, she must leave.
I regret deeply the absence of your keen mind, but unfortunately it's inseparable from an extremely disturbing body.
Oh, Crabapple Annie. Listen,
Crabapple Annie? Well, that implies that I'm puritanical and narrow-minded.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm a perfectly normal man with perfectly normal instincts.
An awful high boiling point.
Not even that. I, too, have been acutely aware of your presence. Well, twice to be exact. The first time when you leaned over my shoulder to explain the meaning of the word riff.
And the second time?
I'm not finished with the first time. You leaned over my shoulder and I felt your breath on my ear.
And?
And the second time you were standing up against the window with the sunlight in your hair.
Oh, Frisbee, you just gave your hand away. You told her you found her attractive. You never do that. Bad idea.
But I'm trying to explain that the whole success of the project depends on this. I want you to cooperate.
I'm picking up good vibrations.
I'd like you to leave. Leave.
Oh, maybe it sounds crazy, but to me you're a regular yum-yum type.
Yum-yum?
Yeah, you know what that means?
No, we haven't gotten to that yet.
We've got to it now.
Oh, man, she is playing him like a fiddle.
Just perfect.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to show you what yum-yum is.
Hmm?
Here's yum. Here's the other yum. And here's yum-yum.
Yes, what is it?
The taxi is here.
Taxi? What taxi?
Miss Swanson's or mine?
It's all yours, Crabapple Annie.
The next morning, Professor Frisbee brings Honey her breakfast in bed,
you went
with a
and
little
bought me
surprise, a ring.
No,
At first, Honey thinks it's nothing but a gift, but then Frisbee drops the bomb and asks her to marry him.
After what you told me yesterday, the way you feel about me, all you have to do now is say yes.
Wow, Frisbee, that's moving fast. I mean, I know she's a hot potato, and that you've got it bad. But even in that case, asking her to marry you after a week and one night after she seems to have expressed some feelings for you, that's moving fast by just about anyone's standards.
Not me.
What?
I say, strike while the iron is hot, and Mama, it's smoking.
Yeah, and you've been married like 15 times.
Only 12, and it's not my fault. I didn't leave any of them. They just couldn't handle the raging volcano of love that is Ignatius Q. Hockenlocker the Third. Meow.
Oh, my.
Oh, Frizzy, Yes, come in.
Miss Honey, there's a telephone call for you.
The man on the wire said it was from your daddy.
Daddy?
That's what he said.
Oh, my daddy. Oh, yeah, I'll take it right away.
Honey's daddy turns out to be her gangster boyfriend, Tony Crow.
Oh, boy, why did you call at the right minute? Things are getting complicated. No, nothing like that. It's just that one of the kiddies is broken out in a rash. Yeah, slight case of spring fever.
No springs!
Honey begs her fiancé to get her out of the house because she doesn't want to break Frisbee's heart. When
Daddy,
Frisbee comes to the phone to do the proper thing and ask Honey's father for her hand in marriage.
Hello, Mr. Swanson. This is Hobart Frisbee. I gather your daughter has told you of our intentions.
Well, all right, Hobart. I don't know whether Honey told you this or not, but she's our only child. Well, we hadn't figured on having a professor in the family, but if that's what she wants, it's okay by us. Well, suppose you bring the kid right down here. We want to meet you, and we'll have the ceremony right here in our own hometown.
Of course. Father wants to talk to you.
Yes?
Well, that takes care of the transportation, baby.
Thinking that he's won her father's permission, Frisbee announces to the boys that they are now engaged, and the long hairs welcome her to the family and tell her,
We feel that you're marrying all of us a little.
Yes, we all do.
feeling like the total heel that she is, Honey goes back to her rooms to pack when...
Bum, bum, bum. Let me through that door. No. Let me through that door or I'll scream.
Oh, no, can't have you screaming.
Wow, that girl's got a heck of a right hook. And fast, too. Meow. Now cut that out! Sorry. After locking up Miss Bragg in the closet, Honey and the professors are off for that glorious land of fun in the sun and quick marriages, New Jersey. But as they're traveling, Frisbee swipes and miss a bunny rabbit in the middle of the road. And they crash into a road sign. Everyone's okay, but the car needs repairs before the boys can continue on. So they stay the night at a hotel. At her first opportunity, Honey calls her boyfriend to tell them why she hasn't arrived. After telling Tony exactly where they are, Honey insists that they hold off the wedding until the next day. Honey discovers that she does have a conscience somewhere deep down inside, and that she's actually having feelings of love toward Frisbee. She also begins to regret fooling the professors.
You know, you boys still have time to warn him. I'd like to keep you all in a locket. Always. 7 squirrely cherubs. Right out of this world.
Honey retires for the night, and we find out that Frisbee is not the only thing around here that has a screw loose. Uh-oh. Back at the tavern, Professor Oddly, the only member of the group to have been married, is imparting the wisdom of his experience to Frisbee. He tells him that he must be tender and compassionate toward his wife, never daring to be bold in her presence. He describes a relationship based entirely on an intellectual basis, devoid of passion, and then goes on to remember his lost wife with great fondness.
After our wedding ceremony, we went straight to the Salzburg Festival. We spent there a beautiful week, filled with promise. And returned home with 3 excellent compositions for the piano and a short nocturne for flute, 2 horns, strings, and oboe. Genevieve was a blonde. Here's a lock of her hair.
Oh, that's lovely, Oddly.
I remember it used to shine a great deal. There was a song at that time everyone sang. I always enjoyed listening to it. Thank you so much.
The days may come, the days may go, but still the hands of memory weave the blissful dreams of long ago.
Frisbee, knowing that Oddly is in room 6, goes out to speak with him further. Oh yeah, this won't turn out to be embarrassing at all.
I'm all confused. I'm glad we're here in the dark because this is extremely personal. Why, the very idea that I should have to spend my honeymoon watching her compose nocturnes or sonatas. I'm a man in love. It's the first time in my life. I think of her every waking moment. I want to take her in my arms.
Oh, Frizzy.
What? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I
don't know how I could have made such a mistake. To say such things to a woman.
Don't apologize.
Oh boy, avert your eyes, kids. Say goodbye to our G rating. But just when things are about to get interesting, Frisbee hears the other guys calling for him.
Frisbee, where are you?
I'll be back.
But it turns out the cat is out of the bag, as the gangsters have found them and reveal the truth.
It seems that Miss Honey has used us to circumvent the police.
I don't believe it.
Professor, you thought she was going to marry you with your 3,000, what is it, a year? He spends that much having her toenails painted.
There's a Mr. Crow waiting for you.
Yeah?
The situation has been explained to me in simple terms. You needn't worry about the police. I just spoke to them, told them you had left an hour ago. Probably were in Trenton by now.
Thanks, Frizzy.
Thanks for what? You've given us a fine course in the theory and practice of being a sucker.
I've been trying to write you a letter. Here are all my excuses.
In the handwriting of a... What would be your word for it?
A tramp.
The end. Kind of a letdown, isn't it? But hey, it's at least a realistic film, and it was one of the first films to really suck it to the audience and not give them what they were expecting.
Ahem. Come on, movie mechanic, you know that's not how the movie really ends.
But it's the way things would have ended in reality.
And why do we like to watch movies? And why do we like to hear stories?
Because we like to escape from reality and make the world we want it to be.
That's right. Now show them how the movie actually ends.
But it's so unrealistic.
That's the idea.
All right. So, early the next morning, Frisbee and the boys arrive home, only to find out that Miss Totten, the woman who is funding the encyclopedia, has seen the story in the newspaper and decided to defund the project and fire everyone. She's just about to give him the boot when...
What happened? Good morning, teachers.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, Louie.
Yeah?
Phone the boss and tell him we got everything in cold storage.
It turns out that Honey has had a change of heart and no longer wants to marry the rich gangster who can keep her in diamonds and furs. She decides that she loves Frisbee. Why?
I love those hick shirts he wears with the boiled collars. And the way he always has his coat button drawn. He looks like a giraffe, and I love him. I love him because he's the sort of a guy that gets drunk on a glass of buttermilk. And I love the way he blushes right up over his ears. I love him because he doesn't know how to kiss. A jerk.
Me. I am really close on this one.
I love him, Tony. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'll never see him again, but I'm not going to marry you.
Even if you fill me full of lead like you did your friend Ernie Hart.
Tony Crow decides that he's going to take Honey back to the professor's place and show her that he means business. And if she doesn't marry him, he'll plug her new boyfriend full of lead. It takes an hour or two, but Tony drives from Jersey to New York, only to find a surprise waiting for him.
Where'd you get all the people? I thought there were only 7 of them.
Oh, they wanted in. Said they was musicians.
Yeah, I recognize them. What are hepcats doing in a place like this?
Louis grabbed them.
They said they was here to play music.
Hello, Hobart.
Hello, Newman.
Tony drags Honey into the next room where his boys have conveniently secured a comically nearsighted and hard of hearing justice of the peace, and they begin the ceremony. All hope seems to be lost when Frisbee gets an idea. Get it? Get it? Frisbee talks to the gangsters and asks if they can entertain them with some music.
Join in. Now, our hope is, in the words of Mr. Armstrong, that this particular music might send you out of this world.
Yeah?
Yes. Would you sit down, please?
Yes.
Hey, less talk and more music.
Oh, I'm sorry. I almost had forgotten about you. Just one more thing. As they are playing, would you boys be prepared to cut a rug for this gentleman?
Oh, we dig
it, Professor.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, now you're talking. That's more like it.
Yes, I thought it was pretty good myself.
While the boys are playing, the justice of the peace begins the ceremony. But in a rehashing of an old vaudeville bit, he's too deaf to hear their responses.
Just said that.
Not that the music helps much.
Cut out that racket, boss.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, where's he going?
He's gonna stop the music.
Well, he can't go. He's a witness. He's got to remain here through the entire ceremony.
Okay, Adams, forget it. Go ahead.
Well, now I forgot where I was. I got to start all over again.
It's gonna take all day.
Put up your hands, Mr. Crow.
Put him up.
Next time on When Musicians Attack.
In grand old fashion, Hobart challenges Crow to a bout of fisticuffs for the love of Miss Honey. You should have forgot about chivalry and went with the gun, you dope!
Take it easy, Tony.
Oh boy, this is gonna be a massacre. For Crow?
Attaboy, Frizzy! Give it to him! Stop it, Frizzy! Attaboy! Give it to him!
Yes, indeed.
So later, when the gangsters have all been hauled away, Honey tells Frisbee why it just can't be between them, and that he needs to move on.
Gentlemen, I know when words cease to be of use. There remains but one argument. Come here, Miss Honey.
Oh, no, Frizzy, please.
On the book, please.
But, Frizzy, but it isn't fair.
Isn't it?
And here, at the end of the movie, Hubbard Humphrey delivers his most famous line and his legacy. This movie is a classic, not only because we have the comic mastery of Danny Kaye and the incomparable direction of Howard Hawks, but because this movie is a time capsule capturing a moment in music history. It's not exactly a musical so much as it is about music. It's about the history and joy of music, while the Longhairs are concerned primarily with classical music and the structure of it. The Hepcats are just digging the beat and letting the jive carry them along, and you can't beat that. For story, I'm going to give this movie 4 out of 5 wrenches. It's a great movie and a great story, but you have to admit there are some things that happen in it that are a little unbelievable. For instance, the idea of people who are studying music and trying to write a definitive work on the subject being so disconnected from the world that they wouldn't notice new trends in music until years after they've been established. Also, it's highly unlikely that the gangsters would have come back to the house just to take the Longhairs hostage so that Honey would marry Tony Crow. And even more unlikely that Tony himself would bring Honey back to the house just so we could have our big finale. I mean, they're gangsters. Far more likely they would have just taken her out of commission. But that's why we love the movies. They're at their best when they show us the way we wish life could be instead of how it actually is. For cinematography, I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 wrenches, because there's nothing here very special. Most of the action takes place indoors, particularly in the house where the professors live. However, the design of the house is beautiful to look at. When Hobart goes out into the city, however, is where the movie really sets its tone. You get the feeling of what it must have been like in the nightclubs and speakeasies of yesteryear. I want to spend most of our remaining time talking about the acting in this picture. Danny Kaye is probably one of the greatest and least known comedians of all time. Modernly, most of his films are out of print and very obscure, except for one. The holiday classic, White Christmas. If you see a movie with his name on it, my recommendation is to buy it without a second thought. You will not regret it. Here, Danny plays the highly intelligent but innocent Professor Hobart Frisbee. He is completely believable as a man dedicated to his profession and obsessed with the study of music, to the exclusion of all else, until Miss Honey Swanson comes in. Then he becomes the bumbling fool with no clue how to handle the situation. But aren't most men when a beautiful woman walks in the room? Some people think he's a bit too puritanical in the role, that no man could be as blind to either the beauty of Miss Honey nor the fact that he's being played. But what you must remember is that he was raised in a different time, where purity and innocence were encouraged, rather than discouraged like today. Overall, Danny gives a multi-layered performance, and as usual, proves his comedic chops. I'm going to give him 5 out of 5.
Don't do that.
Virginia Mayo plays Honey Swanson, and boy does she play it. Here we see the classic sexy beauty who knows what she wants and knows how to get it, and yet give nothing in return. Virginia herself started off as one of the Goldwyn Girls, a world-famous troupe of beauties that appeared in Samuel Goldwyn-produced movies, and actually appeared with her co-star Danny Kaye in a number of pictures. In fact, they were nearly the Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan of their day. Not exactly a team like Fred and Ginger, but when they got together, you knew good things were going to happen on screen. Here, she's not exactly the cliched hooker with a heart of gold, but she's definitely playing off the model. She seems hard-bitten and world-weary when she comes into the house. But as the movie goes on, she changes their lives just as much as they change hers. And she comes to see that there are better people in the world than the likes of gangsters, and more important things than diamonds and furs. Overall, she has a marvelous character arc, and she plays it beautifully. I'll give her 5 out of 5 as well. As for the rest of the cast, there are a great bunch of supporting players. The celebrity cameos are fantastic, though you really can't call it acting because for the most part, they're all playing themselves. So overall for acting, I'm going to give this movie another 5 out of 5 wrenches. And for this movie, I'd like to introduce a new category. Music! While I called this movie a musical earlier, that's not entirely accurate. It's a movie about music, and it only has 3 real songs in the movie, while the rest of the movie is comprised of jam sessions, quote-unquote, and snatches of classic tunes. And let me tell you, in this movie, they are all worth it. The first song, A Song Is Born, Prelude, gets us ready for the fun to follow, but also tells us that the movie is going to be about music and what makes music music.
What makes music music? Music.
The second song, Daddy-O, is a great original number about a girl who did everything she could to make a man happy, but he cheated on her anyway, so she's hitting the road. And while the number doesn't exactly move the story forward, it does give us a glimpse into the mindset of Honey and suggests that she might already be thinking about leaving her gangster boyfriend, even if she hasn't admitted that to herself yet.
You hear me, Daddy-O? I'm gonna teach you some blues.
The third song is the heart of the whole movie, the history of jazz, and shows us the results of the professor's hard work, taking us through a history of music and all the forms that led to jazz.
Jazz is a beautiful woman whose older brother is a policeman.
Most importantly, this number features the one and only Louis Armstrong, who Danny Kaye would work with again in the amazing biopic of jazz musician Loring Red Nichols, 5 Pennies.
Let's hear how jazz was born.
Even though it's not an original song, I have to give an honorable mention to this movie's use of the classic folk song Genevieve. It's a heart-rending little number, done with nothing more than a few voices. Overall, I give the whole caboodle 5 out of 5.
And the good Lord liked everything he heard.
This is as darn near a perfect movie as you could ask for. Yeah, there's a few minor hiccups that strain credulity, but overall, you couldn't ask for more. If you can find it, check it out. It's like a Benny Goodman tune made into a movie. Speaking of which, where was Benny Goodman in this movie? That's Benny Goodman? That square long hair is Benny Goodman? Well, I guess it just goes to show that sometimes an old square dude can be a real hip cat. So until next time, I'm the movie mechanic. And remember, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that old meter.
the mechanic. As you requested, I have downloaded, included, and stored The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, really? You have? Great! Put it on. I want to watch it. Khan, you have Genesis, but you don't have me, Khan. If you want to get to me, you're going to have to come down here. Do you hear me? If you want to kill me, you're going to have to come down here. I've done far worse than kill you. I've hurt you. And I wish to go on hurting you. I shall leave you as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet. Buried alive! Buried alive! You're tearing me apart, Khan! What?
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!